We used to work at a place called Planet Earth. Used to be the Dolce Vita in Newcastle, and I worked with a guy called Raoul Moat, who obviously went on to be quite notorious for killing a guy in Gateshead, shooting a police officer, and then going on a run for six days in Newcastle. Eventually turned up in Rothbury, and then was shot dead by the police. Hell of a story, but Raoul was a really nice guy, genuine, down to earth, Geordie lad, a doorman, somebody who was obviously wound up to the extent where he had to carry out such a horrendous crime and end up in such a horrendous set of events. But before that, he was just a really nice lad. And we used to work on a Sunday night. The upstairs part of the bar was called Bonkers, and what they used to do for the first 2 hours on a Sunday was they used to do 1 pence shots. And you used to get trebles for 3 pence. Wow. And the mixer was 1.50. So it was just ridiculous. So you can imagine everyone used to come there, the girls used to come there. But because there was only the two of us on the door and one inside, we all had to swap round and take turns to work inside. And you can imagine the states that the girls got themselves into. And of course, this one particular night, it was my turn to work inside for the half-hour stretch. And I just remember this girl saying, "My mate's collapsed in the toilets." And I was going, oh no. So I went in, and of course there was this woman, she must have been about 20 stone. She had a knickers again round her ankles. She'd basically been for a crap. And she'd obviously made herself sick by her own smell. So she got up mid-crap, started kneeling down and was sick. So she'd been sick down her front. She'd got crap coming out of her arse.
Oh, my God.
And she's 20 stone. And of course, I'm the one who's having to lift her out. And, well, can you clean her up, girls? And, just an absolute nightmare, So obviously, Raoul was laughing at us on that particular night. But we had a laugh at his expense a couple of weeks later. We were manager Malcolm and the head doorman and the guy who got with the job in there, Mickey Armstrong. He used to love pranking people, and what we used to have was you had the front door, and then you used to walk about 200 yards, and up the side street there's a little alleyway. The alleyway's still there. The club's long gone now, but the little alleyway used to have a fire exit at the top. So Mickey came to us one night. He says, "We're going to get Raoul tonight." He says, "Will you be in on it?" And I went, "Yeah, no problem." So what he did was he went and he said, "What I'll do is I'll radio down and say that there's a girl being put out at the top fire exit, and can somebody go and see her?" So he says, "That's all you need to know." And I went, "Right, okay, no problem." So anyway, we sent Mark Barrett inside. He went upstairs to do his thing. Me and Raoul are on the front door. Radio goes, "Come on, let's go and have a look round the corner. There's a lass collapsed at the top fire exit. We can see her on the camera." So off Raoul goes, and this is before mobile phones or anything. So off I go, and I had a look up the alleyways. Raoul goes running up, and sure enough, there's a girl slumped up, like lying there. And just as Raoul gets to her to ask if she's all right, you just hear whoosh. And basically what they've done is they've filled this big bucket full of water and ice. And Malcolm and Mickey were upstairs at the top office, and they just poured this water. And you just see this gush of water, and it's like one of those Wile E. Coyote films. Raoul just looked up like that, covered in water, absolutely soaked a bit. And he had to go. Obviously, I had to work the whole night or go home and get changed. But it was a funnier side of doing the door. I had a lot of laughs. And again, it comes down to camaraderie. Being in that kind of situation, you can have you've got to kill a lot of the time. It's not all violence and running around like being a superhero. It's a lot of it standing bored stiff and making your own entertainment. It's and that's what we did.
So the black market in drugs gets bigger every single year, and it's so big now it corrupts every profession it comes into contact with. Some people, you saw the doorman wars in Manchester over the Hacienda and the clubs there. How did you navigate that?
Drugs were a big thing in Newcastle. I mean, I remember going on radio Newcastle, and I think I'd said 70% of the people going into Newcastle on a night out are probably taking cocaine or they're taking ecstasy. And I remember the people from the breweries going mad at us when they saw us the following weekend. They're going, "How dare you say that? And why would you say that? It's not true." And I was going, "I'm standing here watching it. I'm seeing what's going on. I'm on the front line. You're not. You're sitting in your office counting your money. I can see what's going on." I said, "I'm only, I was asked for my opinion and I gave my opinion." Newcastle was different. It obviously went on, but I never got dragged into that. I never got compromised. I never got asked to do something that, would put my job at threat. And I was always pretty good at spotting, the people coming in, the dealers, etc. So most of the places that I worked at where I was head doorman, then there was never an issue. The places where I worked at, where I wasn't head doorman, there was issues, and there was a well publicised drugs raid at Sea nightclub. I was working at Sea at the time. I was head doorman at Chase on the quayside, which was run by the same company, so I didn't see the drugs raid. I was working on the front door at Chase, and then I would go from there at 11 o'clock once I'd cleared that bar out to go and do my shift at the Sea. And I got there and it was surrounded by police. The place we got told there was no shift that night, but there'd been an undercover surveillance operation going on from a derelict bar across the road. The head doorman and his deputy head doorman had been arrested. The manager was arrested, and subsequently, there was charges pressed and things happened. But from my position, I was never involved in anything like that. So being involved at a bar where your reputation was tarnished wasn't a pleasant thing to go through. But the venue shut down, was reopened under a different name. We all got moved to different places to continue our work. But yeah, it was a bit of a shock to go through that. But yeah, it's rife, in every city, and it continues to grow, the drugs market, and as long as there's a demand, it will always grow.
I was thinking that I know a lot of people, what I call as straight heads, who just work, but come Friday or Saturday when they're going out with the lads, it's guaranteed the shit shower shaved. They've gone out and got themselves a bag of coke, so they can drink more. Know what I mean? Mm-hmm. It's like more of a common thing to do nowadays.
Well, I mean, back in the day, it was rave parties was all about taking ecstasy tablets.
Yeah.
And I mean, I hate to say it, but ecstasy probably back in the day was a lot safer than it is now.
It's a lot better too, wasn't it?
And you've got, obviously then it was speed. And the reason people took speed is because, they wanted to stay cheap, but they wanted to stay up later. Do you know what I mean? A lot of people would take speed to keep going and so they could enjoy the night out, etc. But there was less trouble in those days. I mean, I remember, I was part of the, the rave scene, and, there was less trouble. Doorman would go to these raves afterwards. Newcastle had clubs like the After Dark in South Shields, the Monkey in Sunderland. Those kind of places were where you would find bar staff and doormen going after they'd finished work, and everyone would be hugging each other, kissing each other, and there was never any trouble. It was like a new thing, but it was football hooligans. There was you'd find Newcastle and Sunderland fans together.
It's amazing, isn't it?
Crazy, when
not on a Saturday afternoon, but you would see them like
exactly. Yeah, they'd want to beat the crap out of each other on a Saturday afternoon on the terraces, and then kiss each other and hug each other and dance to their favourite tune on a Saturday night at a chosen venue, which was mad, But as time's gone on, and dealers and the people higher up the chain have got greedier and started to cut it with various stuff, then it obviously changed things, probably for the worse, and I think there was big changes. The death of Leah Betts, especially, in the Essex Boys era, that changed things massively, especially with being the daughter of a police, high-ranking police officer. I think that changed things massively for everybody in the UK.
Do you think if she wasn't the daughter of a high-ranking police officer, it would have made as much publicity as it did?
No, definitely not. I mean, that case is it's huge, isn't it? And I mean, it's become a franchise now with the rise of the Foot Soldier films. I mean, I was in the third one myself, so I've been part of that franchise. But it's, I think, definitely think that had an effect. I've heard the stories and the rumours, a lot of people saying obviously the wrong people have been locked up for that crime, and that, basically some people even suggesting that the police were involved in potentially, bumping off the Essex Boys, because they were causing so much trouble in their force area, but also because it was the daughter of, a high-ranking police officer. But we'll never know the truth. As far as the justice system's concerned, they've got the right people in there serving their time, and that's that. The case is closed. But we'll never really know the truth about that. But yeah, the whole drug scene and the drugs industry is, it's still big business in the UK, whether the government and whether the police like it or not. And a lot of people would suggest that they might even be getting a little backhander off the back of the drugs industry as well. Anyway,
Have you read the Devil's book, Frenchie's book?
Yeah.
So he's describing these, like, one bouncer firm tries to wipe out another bouncer firm. They just all show up with weapons, and then Frenchie's shooting off his gun, and that's how they try and take over the door. When you were running stuff, did anyone try that on you?
No, because most of the time I was working for door firms, but it wasn't like that. There was probably 3 main door firms in Newcastle. For me, I was always more of a free spirit and would go to work with different people. So I worked for Ultimate Leisure, which was great. Then I worked for Jeff Orton. I worked for Mickey Armstrong, and those 3 were the main companies that you could work for. There was always Paul Lister. I never worked with Paul. Always got a great deal of respect for him. Former professional
Viv have
boxer.
his own firm.
Yeah, but it was prior to me really coming under the doors, and that was before the licensing came in as well.
Was it?
But he was, he had his own lads, but that was earlier than me starting the doors.
It was like there's a movie called Shooters. That's like
great film,
excellent film in it. But that was like way back, like early 80s, isn't it? Really?
Yeah, I mean, the story behind that, of course, was I put that on my YouTube channel many years ago. That's a kind of angle we want to go down with Stephen Sayers' film.
I love that movie.
It's
one of my favourites.
Real gangsters playing real gangsters, real drug dealers playing real drug dealers, real prostitutes playing real prostitutes.
I mean, real funny side though.
Really good.
2 top movies I really like. I like that, and I like, from a funny side of it, I like The Business.
Yeah, The Business is good. It is good, but
I just like I like the El Sergio. I like that like sort of dress.
Goodfellas is my favourite gangster film of all time.
Goodfellas.
The Godfather's always great, but I do like Goodfellas because obviously with my friend Neil Jackson, I got to bring Henry Hill to the UK and be with him for a week, so we got to know him really really well. But I think from an English point of view, it's got to be Villain with Richard Burton.
Okay.
That's fantastic. Based roughly on Ronnie Cray, of course. The Craze, the 1990 version with Ray Burtis, obviously, and Dominic Antiano, who did that, and the Kemp brothers playing the Craze. Although not, correct as far as the storyline's concerned, it's as close as you're going to get. I think that's pretty good.
What do you think about Snatch or Lock, Stock and Two Smoking?
I enjoyed them, but I've got to be honest, I've never watched them. I watched them first time round, but never like revisited them. I'm more like
you couldn't compare them
Friday.
to the Goodfellas and out like that. I like any movie was sort of narrated where like there's a guy speaking over it, talking about it.
Yeah,
it's a good movie, I think. You know what I mean?
100%. I mean, I get caught. I like to watch a lot of these series. I'm banging into the Netflix stuff.
Yeah,
I like Gomorrah. Anyone who's if you watch Gomorrah,
Saviano.
Fantastic. Yeah. That's really really good. It's subtitled.
Yeah,
but, it's well worth a watch. Obviously, a big Sopranos fan as well. So over the years, got to watch a lot of these things, and I think I've picked a lot of influences up because as an actor now, wanting to play those parts and not being typecast. The more that you watch and the more you pick up from either the real villains who I know or from watching other people's way of playing a villain, it's always quite handy.
A really good movie too, I forgot what it's called. It starts off these kids growing up and they steal a hot dog cart and they're pushing it down and the hot dog cart goes down a subway and kills a woman. And they end up going to court or to like a remand school. And they end up getting buggered and that by the people from there. But they end up growing up as policemen and getting the guy back.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's some good stuff out there. It's going out and finding it, really, isn't it? It's getting out and finding it.